You know, you can see. Because I have been to textbooks for my fingers, it's still like easier.
All right, good morning. It's a beautiful day. It's still rainy and nice, right? We should have class outside today. Can you imagine? That'd be amazing, right? You don't know. Be a little tricky, but did anybody actually get snow where you are? Like where you did? Hail? Yeah.
Like snow.
Really? Are you Puerto Rico? Okay, right. I live in CV and I got a little bit of hail for like a couple of minutes. I mean, and we all lost our mind. Like we went outside and the kids were like, "It's snowing." I'm like, "No, that's hail." But it was like, just like a few pieces of it. But otherwise, like I was a little disappointed. Yeah.
On the 23,
Yeah.
there was so much snow in the hills. I think it's like in Bellsware.
Isn't that wild? There's
It's
so much.
I
wanted-
yesterday.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, like it was coming from one side all
Not
the way
one.
to the other.
It looks so enticing that like we
Probably be
Mhm.
in Maryland, Monster.
Okay.
They have all the snow and like they still have it. Like,
Yeah.
as of yesterday.
That's wild. It's been cold. I mean, it's like literally in the 40s out right now. It's chilly. I was so sad. We wanted to go, I think it was Sunday. We're like, oh, okay, let's go find a way to go to the snow. But everywhere where there's snow, the roads are closed. Like you can't get there. Like everyone's trapped there or can't get there. I think Big Bear, I was reading they got like 50 something inches of snow over this like
It
week.
was 100. This
Was it?
last Storm.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's a lot of snow.
That's what they get in like 12.
12 feet.
Yeah, and they're only like 7,000 feet elevation. And my cousin, he goes to Mammoth Lakes Community
Yeah.
College.
Okay.
And he's at like 10,000 feet elevation. So I don't know how much snow he got.
I can't even imagine. There's just been so much.
15 or 20 feet.
Wow. Well, it's been fun. I mean, we definitely should be like making a good dent on our drought with all
I
this
know.
rain and snow, right? Yes, everything's so green. It's so pretty, right? It's like almost like being up in Humboldt with all the rain and everything's green and pretty right now. Got a couple more days of rain, still a slight chance of frozen snow mix, but I'd like to. I wrote this up here, 2 reminders for you. The first one, I gave you that self-care extra credit if you wanted to do it. Totally optional, is worth up to 5 points. It's due by tonight at 11:59 p.m. And so just to remind you, if you still wanted to do that, and a few of you did, you are welcome to do that through this evening if you would like to. And then Wednesday's a flex day. So there's a couple of these usually. What it means, a campus flex day means there's no class for all of you. So all the faculty have to come and attend class. And all of you get a break. So I'm not too excited about Wednesday. I would much rather be here with all of you talking about this than sitting for 6 hours learning about distance education on Zoom.
3 years. Why do we need to like still like?
I know.
Sorry, I don't mean that to sound like.
Last year it was sexual harassment, so I guess that distance education is better. I don't know. Oh my
No,
gosh,
it's true. It's true.
it's pretty shameful during the pandemic. Yeah,
For this, it's been a little.
yeah.
Yeah, it's been like 3 years.
I had somebody yesterday who was, or last week, they were like a faculty member was like, I don't know how to use Zoom. I'm like, how did you make it through the last 2 years if you don't know how to use Zoom? Yeah, and it was actually a little frightening during like the heart of COVID. I mean, there were a lot of faculty who were just like, read this out of the textbook and that's it. Like, I mean, so yeah, I get to learn about distance education. So be really jealous. You guys all of you get the day off and I will be here. I'll be virtual learning about virtual stuff. So very exciting. So I won't see you Wednesday. That should be for all of your classes. So it should be a campus-wide, all classes. If somebody's holding class, they shouldn't be. So it should be that you get a break that day. And that's part of like a campus flex activity. So I will see you today and then I'll see you again on Monday. Wednesday's March. Can you believe that it's March? 25 more days to my cruise. It's getting so close. I'm like packing already. I'm ready. I'm buying snacks and packing like my kids' backpacks. I'm like, let's do this. We fly out in 25 days. And I'm like, that's really soon. It's like almost like it's 3 weeks from this Thursday. I'm really counting at this point. It's like all I can think about. Anyway, reminders on those things. Cruise coming up, happy weather, all good things, right? And somebody brought me a donut this morning. It's been a great Monday. All right, so we left off here. We'll keep going where we left off, talking about more elements of orientation today. So this is where we left off, if I have it right, to seem correct. Okay, good. Where we were talking about how it's difficult to get an accurate number of how many people identify in this way for a lot of different reasons. But there are a lot of issues faced by people who identify as a minority, right? Now we're talking about minority status in terms of orientation, but this is true for any minority group, right? Whether it's race, ethnicity, ability, orientation, religion. When you identify as a minority group, there tend to be some struggles that come with it. Now here we're talking about orientation related struggles, but just something to keep in mind that this is definitely something that any minority group is going to struggle with. But as identifying as gay or lesbian or even bisexual, people tend to face marginalization, prejudice, and negative attitudes entrenched in our cultural and political systems. Now, this is something that has definitely gotten better, but it's very much still present, right? And you see evidence of that periodically. But what we see are a kind of variety of things. So we'll talk a little bit about homophobia and hate crimes, we'll talk about some mental health correlates and so on. But homophobia is any irrational fear of homosexuality, right? It's not a traditional phobia per se. Like a phobia is when you have an irrational fear of something. But this is more like the fear of a possibility of homosexuality in yourself, or maybe loathing or discomfort around other people who identify as like gay, lesbian, bisexual. Okay, so this is definitely something that people do struggle with. And you can have homophobia that's internalized. You can be gay or lesbian and be homophobic. Like that's not out of the question. And it's something that a lot of people do go through as like a stage of their identity. In 2019, so a few years back, statistics are always a few years old, 1,279 gay and lesbian individuals were victim of recorded hate crimes in the United States, which resulted in either death or serious injury. Okay, so a hate crime is any kind of criminal offense, usually involving some kind of violence, intimidation, vandalism, in which a person is targeted because of their belonging to a group or an affiliation with a group. So in 2019, about 1,200 or so reported hate crimes toward individuals identifying as gay or lesbian. So there are like incidences of hate and violence and vandalism and things going on, even murder, right? We've seen a lot of these things happen in our country. And I have this slide, I kind of combined it all together of like some kind of big things. And some of them you may know of and some not others. There's the Don't Say Gay bill that passed in Florida this year, where a teacher can be removed from their position of like employment if they talk about any kind of gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, gender identity, anything related to gay, like culture or gay or gender identity, anything related to that, they can actually be fired, right? And they're removing all books that include anything related to homosexuality in Florida. It's also something going on in Texas as well, in Louisiana and a couple other states. There was a big thing that happened at the Pulse nightclub in Miami. Right? That was another big thing that happened like in the news pretty recently. This one's older, but it's so memorable. Like for me, it was 10 years ago or a little more, but I still remember it. Chick-fil-A, which sadly I don't eat at because of the things like this. Even though I've heard they have the best chicken, I've never eaten there, but I just won't. But Chick-fil-A back in 2012 had a day where every penny that they made went to fighting gay rights, right? And so it was a nationally publicized event and people lined up for this. I lived in the Valley at the time and I drove by that Chick-fil-A on like Reseda or Tampa, I think it is. And the line was just around the corner. Every penny they made that day went to fighting gay rights, to like companies that support anti-gay rights. And I wrote it down, the number of people, there were, where did it go? 97 more people on average per hour at each Chick-fil-A across the country, per hour. So they raised a lot of money that day. And then in response, and there were all these like signs and protests going on. And in response, the gay and lesbian community had a national kiss-in day the following day at Chick-fil-A, where every gay and lesbian individual was encouraged to go there and make out in the store. At Chick-fil-A, right? So interesting, just as a response. And then I have this one from Berea. Berea is a pasta company that put out a whole thing about like we won't support like gay and lesbian like identities. There's all these companies that come out with these statements periodically, and then events that happen like the Don't Say Gay bill, the Pulse nightclub shooting. There was a hate crime in Oxnard a couple of years ago where a little boy was shot for being perceived to be gay. There's a lot of these things that happen in our country. These are examples of hate crimes or legislation that is discriminatory toward gay and lesbian individuals. Yeah.
It's a little different sexual orientation.
Sure.
But in Tennessee, that they're trying to ban trans people from being transgender.
Right. Yeah.
Telling them they have a year to reform,
Mm-hmm.
or they're going to face some type of legal repercussions.
Yeah, there's a lot of like trans bills that are like, it's a big thing right now. Part of that Don't Say Gay bill, that's how it's become known, is Don't Say Gay, but it has a lot to do with trans rights as well. Anything with gender and orientation. Right?
It's like, it's, I can't believe it's like,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah. Yeah, so it was a big part of the Roe versus Wade decision that was overturned. It then led to a lot of stuff with trans rights and gay rights and even interracial marriage rights. Really odd, it almost sent us back like 50 to 70 years.
So maybe things like our problems and it really doesn't affect anyone else. And we have so many other problems going on, like our country, sorry, it just like frustrates me.
Yeah.
So
It's wild. My partner teaches high school English at Royal High School. And I mean, it's wild. They are encouraged to not talk about anything related to orientation or gender, but there's no consequence. They're just encouraged not to. And like, she has several students who identify as trans, and prefer to go by a name that's different from what they were born with. And there's a lot of pushback on that. It's wild. It's still very much a thing. For sure. Did you have your hand up? Yeah.
She taught that little boy.
Lawrence, right? I think his name was Lawrence King.
She got retired from teaching, but she they like made like a whole documentary.
Yeah.
And I just watched it like like I think last year, and like I put it all like I put all the pieces together, and I was like, he's so young.
Yeah. He was a little kid who liked to wear nail polish and makeup, and he was a little bit like feminine, and he was shot and killed. And like they said, he was allegedly shot and killed. Like it was just so yeah, allegedly, right? It was really, and it was in Oxnard. It's very local for us. So this isn't something that's far away. You know, this is anywhere and everywhere, sadly. Yeah.
I think it was my sophomore year of high school. Some people from the Westboro Baptist Church came to my high school. I don't know why, they just decided something happened in our district, and they decided they needed to come over and like make a statement. So there was like a huge counter protest at my school, and a bunch of people stood outside from like 5 a.m. until like 7 or 8 a.m. with like pride flags, and they like threw rainbows all over the sidewalk. People like broke their cars by. It was like a really big thing that happened. It was just so weird that like people like that would even want to like come to our school because they think that like there's a problem. And also one of the elementary schools in my area, someone spray painted like pedos work here because there's a gay teacher.
Yeah.
Schools. It's just really strange to see that.
Right, because you think, I mean, at least in my mind, we're not there anymore. Like it feels like we've made so much progress on this stuff, and then you're hit in the face with things like that, right? In our local community, right? And it isn't always safe for people to be out. We'll talk about coming out later, but like my partner tells her students that her husband, she talks about her husband, right? And I go by husband and dad, so she's not lying, right? But I forget, it's not in this class, right? I have a student this semester, I think it's in my other class, who was one of her students for the first time. And she's like, wait, you're her husband? But what? And I'm like, right? Like it was inevitable, right? But it's just kind of, it's sad in a way, like she doesn't feel like she can tell her students because it isn't necessarily safe, right from discrimination or even like just negative attitudes from people. This is something that's still very much around. It's less than it used to be, but it's still something that's present. And you get these examples in the media periodically that get a lot of attention. Is that a, yeah?
Yes, it was an ADL event,
Mhm.
8,000 elves. I don't know if people know about it.
No,
I don't know if people know what ADL is,
Mm.
the Anti-Defamation League,
mhm.
and they had an event, and Nova College was also one of the sponsors. So that was really nice.
Yeah.
And I participated, and it was a walk for like 1 mile, something like that. But like all minority groups basically gathered together
Yeah.
against, what is happening right now. So it was like the LGBTQ, the Jews, Latino groups. So that was really interesting. It was really colorful, and there were like people that explaining about different types, like the Jews, the LGBTQ. So it's really what you said. Like there are like some groups that are like trying to fight back.
Yeah, there's a lot of groups trying to fight back, and it's just there's a lot of culture of struggling with different, people who are different from you in whatever way that might be. And so there's a lot of groups that meet to deal with this stuff. So there are like kind of legislation related things that we could call like hate crimes or policy related stuff. A couple of other things to mention. Now, this is old, but I want to mention it because it's something that does come up periodically. And I think it's another example. Now, these were struck down for the most part in like 2003 or before, so about 20 years ago. But there's something called a sodomy law. Now, sodomy is an interesting term. It refers to Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Like the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, that like unholy or like immoral cities that are referenced in the Bible. A sodomy act is any kind of act that doesn't lead to procreation. So this technically could be between a heterosexual couple, a gay couple, it could be between anyone. But it's something that was an act that's deemed to be like a sex crime in a way. And all the way up till 2003 in certain parts of the United States, you could be sent to jail if you were caught having sex with another person that didn't have the intention of being leading to procreation. Now, this was very disproportionately enforced for gay couples versus straight couples. Neighbors would report their neighbors and have them arrested for suspected like gay relationships. And you can see the states that are red are the ones that repealed it in the 2003 range. So they were the last ones. So like Texas and Florida, the red states. And then like California, for example, was way back in 1989. But this was something that was very much present. People would go to jail, be fined up to $10,000 for being caught having sex with somebody, traditionally if they were a gay couple. It could be enforced for heterosexual couples, but almost never was that actually the case. So sodomy laws. Another interesting thing, same-sex marriage. And this is something that actually almost got repealed again as part of like an offshoot of that Roe versus Wade stuff. But they passed another act, the Respect for Marriage Act, passed this year, like the very end of last year. But this is something that's been an interesting kind of like progression in our country of looking at same-sex marriage rights. If you go back to 1996, Clinton signed what was called the Defense of Marriage Act, or DOMA, keeping it where couples couldn't get married and be federally recognized. California was one of the first states to overturn what was called Proposition 8 and allow same-sex marriage. And then we're the only state to allow it and then take it back, right? So it passed, couples like flocked and got married, and then they repealed it. And all of a sudden, same-sex marriage was no longer allowed. In 2013, like it was allowed to resume, right? So we passed it, we took it back, and then we passed it again. And then as of 2015 in our country, we federally recognize same-sex marriage. Though again, it was almost taken away, and they passed another act through Congress in 2022 to uphold that ability to not take away interracial marriage and same-sex marriage. Right, both of them were included in that act. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you guys took down, but like by government, is that to them you're not married anymore? Or is
Right.
it like,
yeah. And
so you
so
have to remarry?
so you have to refile. A lot of couples like refiled. So my partner and I got married. We had like a whole like wedding up in Humboldt, and it wasn't legal at the time. Like we waited and we're like, oh, forget it. Let's just do it anyway. I wanted my wedding cakes. I didn't want to be robbed of my wedding cakes. And so we had a ceremony, and then when they made it legal, we went to the courthouse in Ventura. And our daughter was actually our witness. It was really cute. She was like 6 months old, so she really witnessed it, you know. But we like had her like sign the little certificate. It was cute. And so then we were legally married. But a lot of couples got legally married and then they took it away. And so any rights that they had were basically abolished. And then when it became legal again, a lot of times people had to go renew that like marriage certificate. Yeah, and the problem was they didn't take it away, they nullified it. So
it's like
it had no value. Yeah. And so what would happen? So if you're wondering, like, what does that even mean? Right. So like if you are legally married to someone, whether that's a man, a woman, otherwise, right, whether it's heterosexual or homosexual, like marriage, that gives you a lot of legal rights. Okay, legal rights over like their medical health, right? So if your partner that you're married to is in the hospital, you can visit them in the hospital if you're married to them. If you're not married to them, they can deny you access, right? If you're just like a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatnot, they can say, no, you're not family, you can't come in. And so what would happen is the same-sex couple who's not married, they could deny you access to visiting a partner who's sick. They could let you not have any rights over their medical health. You don't have any rights over children that you have together, right? Because they wouldn't recognize you as a parent. You don't have any like financial, like shared responsibilities. You can't file your taxes together. So there's a lot of things that having a marriage that's legally federally recognized grants you. And that could be taken away if they repeal it. And so that was a big part of this Respect for Marriage Act. I mean, it was literally even including interracial marriages, which have been legal for like a very, very long time. But they were trying to remove that privilege and take it away as part of that Roe versus Wade overturning that happened like a year ago, a little bit more. So this is just another example of like legislation wise of like a battle that a lot of couples have fought through, right? Of wanting to get married, but not being able to, and then getting married and having those rights maybe even taken away afterward. So a lot of kind of back and forth in our country. Up until 2013 in California, you could marry your first cousin, but not a same-sex partner. Just let that sink in. Your first cousin. I thought of my cousin just now, right? But not your same-sex partner. That's no longer the case, but it was all the way up to 2013. Yeah. Yeah, so it was Clinton who passed it, and it made it where you couldn't federally recognize a marriage. So if somebody got married in California, it wouldn't be valid in Oregon, right? Like if you had to stay within your state to have it be recognized. Mm-hmm. And then that was repealed later on.
In California, at least, like, same-sex marriage, they went to a different state, got married, and then lived in California.
Yeah.
So they just got married, let's just say, like in a different state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there were other states, there's quite a few states that recognize same-sex marriage, but because of the act that Obama passed, this one in 2015, and then this one was last year, it's federally recognized. So if you're married in California, it's recognized in Massachusetts. It's recognized throughout the country, but that was almost removed, which is why they passed this again. So again, a lot of back and forth. It's been a messy progression. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So what they did is they blocked the ability constitutionally for that to be removed because it was going to be. So like, for example, on our children's birth certificate, my partner carried our children and gave birth to them. I missed the opportunity to eat for multiple people, but she carried our children. I've never wanted to, but I'm on the birth certificate. Really cool. They put me on there as dad because that's what I wanted. And like Kaiser was really liberal and they let me be dad on the birth certificate. I'm dad, which is so cool. But if they had repealed this, then they would have removed my legal right to be like a parent to my children. And I would have had to adopt them in order to have them be my children. So it's stuff like that where it actually like, and it's super complicated. I'll tell you the story of them later, but some of them might be biologically mine. So that would be really tricky to prove. But this whole act, it was meant to protect that for all these couples who have children and are married to each other. Really wild. A lot of legislation around this. It's something that's still very ongoing. The Respect for Marriage Act was like 2 months ago that passed, like 2.5 months ago. It's right at the end of the year. Yeah. Mental health. There's also a lot of mental health correlates for people who identify as gay, lesbian, bisexual. marginalization, right? So a lot of like rates of depression, suicidality, and substance abuse. Those things are quite a bit higher for people who identify as gay or lesbian or bisexual than people who don't. Right? A lot of depression and feeling like you don't fit in, suicidality, as I mentioned, abusing substances to cope. Homosexuality was viewed as a mental illness all the way up until 1973 in the DSM. So the book that we use to diagnose mental illnesses recognized it as a disorder that required treatment and conversion and therapy all the way up till 1973. And until recently, this was about 12 years ago, we actually would practice something called conversion reorientation therapy to try and change people's orientation. Now, whatever your orientation is, I want you to think about what it would take to change it, right? So whether you're heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, asexual, or other, what would it take to change that completely? And what they would do is they would actually try to change people's orientation through shock therapy and through a variety of different methods. The APA deemed this to be unconstitutional not that long ago. I wrote the year down, I'm forgetting. 2009. So a little about 14 years ago. In 2009, this was deemed to be something you could no longer do. But they would hook men up, they would hook a man's penis up to an instrument that would measure blood flow. And then they would show them pictures of other men. If they became aroused, they would give them an electric shock to try and dissuade them from being aroused by men. Same thing to women. And so they were trying to reorient them, almost like you could flip a switch. It was wildly ineffective, but it was still something that was practiced pretty heavily. Parents would send their kids away to camps where they would try to have like reorientation therapy. And again, we don't do this so much anymore. It's still practiced, but it's no longer deemed constitutional. It's a little bit more underground. Yeah. Yeah, you could have a lot of trauma from that. And yeah, I mean, again, imagine like if you are female and attracted to men, what would it take for you to switch your orientation? Like it's something that a lot of us believe is not necessarily a choice, but it's kind of intrinsic to us. And so doing things like this, it was just literally punishing people oppressively through shocks and so on to try and change it. I have a clip of this I'd like to play for you. It's from a movie that kind of makes fun of it a little bit. And so they're kind of poking fun at something that was a very serious thing, but it was called But I'm a Cheerleader. I don't know if any of you have seen it. It's a comedy, but it's about this young woman who is, they think she's a lesbian. So they send her off to this camp to reorient her. And such a bad design. They put all the lesbians together in one room and all the gay men together in one room. And so of course it leads to shenanigans and whatnot. And they're trying to reorient them through gender-related exercises. So teach the men to be like strong and masculine and teach the women to be feminine. And so it's a lot of like pink and blue. But I'll show you a clip from this. They do an intervention. The funniest thing is the counselor is RuPaul, who's probably the most flamboyant person in the world, right? And so it's a great example. This is, again, called But I'm a Cheerleader. It's an older movie, but it highlights this idea of that movie is kind of a commentary on that. What we tend to do now is more like just traditional therapy, right? People who identify as gay or lesbian and need extra support might go to therapy, but it's more to learn how to cope with the world being the way it is, or maybe family members who aren't supportive, rather than trying to change your orientation. But for a lot of years, that was the focus of therapy. It was a mental illness that required treatment and conversion to try to become heterosexual. Any like thoughts or comments, anything here before we keep going at all? That room would be my nightmare, that pink room. Oh my gosh, right, forget it, yeah.
So conversion therapy place
Yeah.
it's really so it's like me and my twins to like watch an ad for it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Do you know what it's called?
No.
You should, okay, if you find out, you have to let us know, because we all want to look it up now, I think. I know I do. Right? So there's a place, so I go up to Humboldt every summer, like just for a couple of weeks, because I love it up there, all the trees and everything. And there's this place, we drive by it every time, and it's a reorientating camp. And like 10 years ago, they changed the name of it and they changed the poster of it, but it's exactly what it is. And like people do it under a different guise, like, so it's kind of hidden and a little more covert than it used to be, but it's still there. Yeah,
They don't say it straight up.
but that's what it is, right? That was a great pun, straight up, right? Right. Find out what it's called. You have to let us know. Yeah. Yeah, right. Right. Pull over and make out in front of them and then keep riding, right? And get some Chick-fil-A and keep going, right? Anything else here? Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And like Jack's character goes to like sit on the guide there, and he's like, I wanted to like release his dark on for everybody.
Yeah, right. And again, like, you know, people trying to make fun of something or like make light of something that can be difficult, right? There's so many great examples of it. I totally know the one you're talking about.
This guy that has like written a book. At the very beginning, he doesn't say if he's gay or straight or whatever, and it's like how to like convert yourself or whatever.
Sure.
And then halfway through it like reveals like he was gay, but he's like converted himself and now he's straight and he's got like a wife and kids, and it's just like so weird to watch.
Yeah.
Like, he's like quoting too that could like affect it is like total BS, and she like completely calls him out on it. But it was just like weird to be like, you have like shoved yourself like so far into the plot.
Sure.
Like maybe he's happy with his wife and kids, but like it's very clear.
Yeah, and a lot of people unfortunately do that. They shove that tendency down. They try and do something that we could call passing, right? Like, so like I'm going to pretend that I am that I'm straight, right? And enter into a relationship even if I'm unhappy, because I know that other people aren't going to accept me being the way that I am. And this is a big thing for a lot of people, the extent to which someone who identifies as gay or lesbian or bisexual, how open they are tends to really impact their lifestyle pretty significantly. And we tend to think of coming out as like a one-time grand gesture, right? Like I'm going to, the whole idea is coming out of the closet, right? And that comes from the idea that you have skeletons in the closet, like you're hiding something. And so the stereotype is you have one grand exiting of the closet where you're like, I'm gay, like to the world, and like everyone knows that you're done. That's not at all how it is. This process of becoming aware of and disclosing your identity is with every single person that you meet. It's an ongoing thing. Every time you meet a new person, do you tell them about your identity or not? Do you tell them that you have like a female partner or a male partner, or do you change pronouns to hide it, right? Do you like pass, or do you actually present authentic? And a lot of people will try and present like a false image of being heterosexual in order to make less waves or not receive like hatred from family or be cut off from family. It's definitely a thing that happens for people. Yeah.
Ex's best friend
Okay.
was gay. He had a crush on my ex.
Okay.
He told me. But he knew him since he was little. My ex was very Catholic and very strict. And so he never told him. But I knew before he did.
Okay.
I found out like this kid kind of knew, but I didn't say anything. And he told me he was freshman. I was like, oh, I don't think like
he's all yours. Okay. Sure. Yeah, religion is a big part of that for a lot of people. Yeah, and like, you know, we tend to think that it's not as big of a deal anymore, but it can be. And sometimes that happens too. That's that internalized homophobia of like, we call it like a reaction formation. It's a defense mechanism where people act the opposite of how they feel. So if they fear that they're gay, they act as straight as possible, right? Almost to a hating level, because they can't cope with the fact that they might be gay. It's very common in people who aren't comfortable with their identity yet. Yeah.
My cousin, he's like 17 now.
Sure.
And I remember from, because we have a pretty big age gap. So I remember by the time he was like 3, it was very obvious that he's probably gay because, when you're a boy and you're gay, you tend to be a little more feminine. And so like.
Sometimes anyway, right?
Right. He was, and he is like, he's just more feminine. And I remember even when he was 11, he got like this pink little princess bear and named her Bubblegum and like his parents were like, no, he's straight, he's not gay, what are you talking about? They denied it until the minute he came out. And
Yeah.
they still won't tell anyone because they're Israeli, and it's like really frowned upon in Israel.
Sure.
Because like, I don't know.
There's a lot of cultures that really frown
Yeah.
upon, being gay, lesbian, or bisexual. It can be very culturally based. There's a lot of religious groups that are very like negative about it. It can be a challenge, right? My first partner that I ever had, we like her parents, like to her parents, we were just friends, right? And I would stay over all the time, but we were just friends, right? And her parents kept trying to hook me up with her brother. It was the worst thing, like constantly. Every time I go over there, they'd be like, so have you met Patrick? I'm like, yes, I know who Patrick is. Like, I'm dating Patrick's sister, but nobody knows that. But like every time I go over, they'd sit me next to Patrick, like every time. And he knew that I was dating his sister. So he thought it was hilarious. And I thought it was hilarious. And we probably fueled it, which because it became a joke. Like, I'd be like, Patrick, can I have a hug? And like, he'd be like, oh yes, like just made way too much fun out of it because her parents didn't know, right? And she wasn't comfortable. My partner at the time wasn't comfortable telling her parents because she was afraid they would kick her out of the house. And she came out years later when she had a different partner, and they did kick her out years later. And I never ended up with Patrick, sadly, right? But her grandparents and her parents, like every time we're like, Patrick is waiting. He can keep waiting. I don't care about that. And it was like a matter of passing. It was like, we're not going to say anything. One, we were like young, and two, like it just wasn't something that was safe at the time, right? A lot of people choose to pass, whether that is dating somebody for just for show, or maybe even like marrying someone and like completely denying that it's part of their existence. It can go either way. Was there another? Yeah.
Yeah. My first boyfriend, he would always like claim how he was like straight, like all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I never I was like, maybe it's a little fruity, but like it's fine. And but he would like constantly be like, yeah, like I'm straight. And then when we broke up, like literally like a month after he like came out and stuff, and like was like posting their new like partner on like Instagram and stuff, and it was really like painful for me a little bit, but
Yeah.
I'm like happy for them now and stuff.
Sure.
But it was like total like I was shocked but not really like
Yeah, like you knew, but it still was hard in a way, right?
kind of
Yeah.
like he also like would always like try and like hide our relationship a little bit, and like I had like at the end, like when he did come out, like I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like, he wanted to hide it and stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, it's just crazy, like both sides, and I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
You were his beard. Yeah, literally, I'm beard.
I just watched like 2 weeks ago. I don't know if any of you seen the movie The Birdcage. It's an older movie with Robin Williams. And the whole thing, they're trying to pass for their son is getting married, and they're like a super conservative family. And so they try and pass as like straight. And the whole thing is about like, you got to walk like a man and be like a man, and like all these things of, again, making fun of what it means to be straight in a way. And there's a lot of movies about this. There's a lot of like people who struggle with this. It really plays a big role in how happy and open you are in your life. Like I said, my partner right now, like her students don't know, right? She doesn't feel like she can tell them. I like say it right off the bat, right? Like, I mean, it doesn't bother me, and I'm much safer in a college environment, but in public schools, it's not always the safest thing to do, right? As I forget someone was saying about that, you were saying like they spray painted that, right? It's definitely still a struggle. And I have kind of a fun activity that I want you to do with this, just to kind of illustrate this point a little bit. You need a piece of paper because you're going to turn it into me. So put your first and last name on it. You're going to turn it in.
Oh, if it is
A little bit.
And then.
So again, write your first and last name on it. You are turning it into me for the ways. And it can be like part of a scratch paper. It doesn't have to be a whole thing. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay. And now I'll tell you what I want you to write down. In just a second. Okay, so I want you to think about like 5 or 6 things in your life that are really important. Okay, so 5 or 6 things, like if I had to write it, I'd like my partner, my family. Food. Well, I put my partner and family before food. Right, so I have my priorities, right? My pets, right? Maybe my job. I know, that was probably, I should have put them before. Slap pets. That's something. Just write 5 or 6 things. They could just be like a bulleted list. 5 or 6 things in your life that are important to you. It can be something you like to do. It can be a role that you have, people, anything. 5 or 6 things in your life that are important. And again, it can literally be anything. Give you another minute or so, and I'll tell you what we're going to do with it. Supposed to be looked at. Does anyone need more time? Good. Okay. So what I want you to do, I want you to find a partner that you don't know. So if you have somebody you sit next to that you know fairly well, pick somebody else. But I want you to find a partner. If you have to have 3 of you, that's okay, but 2 is easier. So I'll give you just a minute. Find somebody around you that you don't know, right? Partner up with them. And then again, if you don't have a group of 3, that's okay. It doesn't like partner. Find a partner. If you need to get up, that's fine too. But find somebody you don't know.
Yeah.
Tell you that it's usually a little off. That's the point. So what I want you to do is take about a minute or 2 and introduce yourself, your partner or partners, but you're not allowed to talk about anything on the English program. The other person, but tell them nothing broken. Family, my partner, or my job. If I couldn't talk about those things, I would really struggle to give somebody else like anything meaningful about myself. And I saw a lot of you like, we're looking at like your list, like, what the hell? Like, so I don't know, any thoughts or any comments about how it went for you? Anybody at all? Yeah.
I feel like so I made like a very awkward silence.
Sure.
So like I'm a very talkative person, so it wasn't very hard.
Okay.
Like it was hard at first, and I was like, what do I say? And then I'm like, oh, I'm about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. And so you were able to fill the space, right? Did anyone cheat? A little bit, like kind of find a little bit of way. It's not right, like you're right. Like you said, you were kind of sort of all in. Okay. To asking a little bit, or you could talk about a partner, but makes up this, or talk about school, but it's not school. My neighbor, or my new job.
Yes, I was talking about my pets, but I didn't bring up my pets.
Okay. Okay, so you want to talk about your pets for that.
Yeah, it's like I got a tortoise. It's perfect.
Okay, go on.
Animals.
Ow. Say what they are.
As we talked about like behaviors.
Okay,
We all at one point achieved them.
yeah. So you got elements of it in there, but maybe not the whole thing. Yeah.
I didn't write down like school or college or whatever, but I wrote down art and that's my major. So
Okay. Yeah.
like knock school off.
But like,
Yeah. You
Right?
didn't guess what my major was just based off of.
Sure, sure.
So.
Yeah.
Or.
Yeah. So the idea here, so the reason I had you do that is that's what it's often like for somebody when they're trying to hide things, right? And it might not be your orientation. I imagine a lot of you have had to hide something from someone else and you found ways to like either go around it or just not mention it. Maybe your family doesn't approve of a partner that you have, and it has nothing to do with their sex, but it might be other elements of that person that your family doesn't approve of. So you talk about somebody else or you skirt around it, or they don't like your job or they don't approve of your major. And so you find ways to not talk about it. But when people have to make these choices, like if you can't talk about your family or your partner because you're not comfortable telling people, are you really giving them a good portrayal of who you are? This can affect people's lives really drastically, how out they are and how comfortable they are sharing these things with other people.
But like my really close neighbor, she had an ex-boyfriend that was like very controlling.
Sure.
Very demanding, and he was like physical abusive. And like recently we were outside of my house, and my other neighbor across the street heard this like loud noise, and you could tell it wasn't like a gunshot, it wasn't like a firework. But so we went out to the street by our house, and it was like a little mini explosive. And so my neighbor from the end of the street, she came up and she's like, oh, that's probably my ex-boyfriend, you know, he does stuff like that. And we were like, that could have been like really dangerous.
Yeah.
It was literally like there was a wall and like the cul-de-sac right there.
Mhm.
Like that could have been very dangerous.
Sure.
And like it was to the point where she had to like get a restraining order, and like
Mhm.
he couldn't come to her house.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, that's just like
Mhm.
crazy to do that. Like that could hurt someone.
Sure. Yeah. And so again, like we make these choices with a lot of the things in our lives, right? Like how much do we tell other people and when do we tell other people? And those things have a big influence on how happy and comfortable we are, right? So I'm going to collect those from, if you want to go back to your spots. I know some of you move. I'll collect those at the end, or you can bring them up here as you're walking by if you want to come forward. Or pass them up. Pass them up. Give your points for. Yeah. If I don't, just make sure. There we go. Thank you. All right. Okay, so one more thing for today, one more kind of element of this. So I've talked about bisexuality as part of homosexuality, but I want to take a minute to talk about it specifically on its own. So oftentimes we clump together homosexuality and bisexuality, but they can be very different things. Everybody ready? Identifying as bisexual has its own challenges that are separate from identifying as gay or lesbian. Now, sometimes identifying as bisexual can be really challenging. A lot of people who identify this way, there are stereotypes of being bisexual, specifically bisexuality. And so, like, can anyone think of one off the top of their head? What are some stereotypes of being bisexual? Yeah.
For a while.
Right. Yeah.
Well, oh, if you have preference, then that only for the-
Yeah. That it's like not really an
Yeah,
orientation.
it's what you know what I mean? Like it's. But they don't
Yeah.
mean that bisexuality is legit, it's out of the gay or straight.
Yeah, that's a really common one. Like, oh, no way, you're just in denial about being
Yeah.
one or the other, right? Yeah.
I've been told that I don't really care, and it's just, I don't have a, story, oh my god, it's not a preference, it's like, I'll go with whatever,
Okay,
like I just lost.
that's okay. Look at everyone wants to help you. I love that, right? Trying to think. So great. I love it. Okay, if you think of it, raise your hand again. Yeah. 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 Right. You're not capable of being monogamous because you want everything and anything. You can't, you're gonna cheat, right? For sure. Did you have your head up? Yeah, right? That they just want sex with everyone all the time, constantly. Did it come back to you? Okay. Okay.
Standards.
Okay. That's the when you're desperate, you want anyone, but you're not gonna stay monogamous to them either, right? And want a threesome, right? We're just really building here, yeah.
Date a bisexual man because he would be like hiding the gay side of himself the whole time, and I was like, gay side of myself.
Yeah, and it's kind of like what you were saying too, right? Like, it's not a valid orientation, right? You're just hiding that, like, one piece of it. Did you have a thought too?
Like my ex, she would always say that I was gonna like leave her for a guy.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, it was really weird and it like put all this like insecurity into the
Sure.
relationship.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a piece of it, right? That there's like this extra layer of like threat because they're interested in both, they're not going to commit to you, or like they might leave you for other that you can't compete with. That you're on the fence, that you're indecisive, you can't make up your mind, that you want to sleep with everyone, right? There's a lot of stereotypes of bisexuality. The other one that I see a lot is you're invisible, right? There are like there's like a heterosexual culture and there's a gay culture. And bisexuality ends up sometimes being that invisible culture where you're like, I don't know where I fit because people don't believe it to be real, or it's trendy, that you're only doing it to be trendy, or like be popular. I had a video clip of this, of like, what there's music. So yeah, go ahead while I'm waiting for this.
Another one, it's like paths to both being, like there were certain things.
Yeah.
Like that trend where like, oh, bisexual stuff are like great, or like they like, oh, like,
So St. Patrick's Day is like the national bisexuality holiday. Interesting. Okay, so yeah, for sure. So I don't know if any of you have seen the movie Dodgeball, but I have this like really short clip from it, and I think it highlights the stereotypes about bisexuality really well. So it's really brief, but I'll play it for you anyway. Because I think
about something. And I was like, okay. And he's like, are you gay? Because like you have rainbow nails. And
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. Like I
Mhm.
remember like being like so like taken aback. I was like, why does it matter if I have rainbow nails?
Right.
It does not make me gay. Like,
Yeah.
And now they literally have a gay kid. So
So there, right?
Yeah.
The nails, they rubbed up, right? So the rainbow is synonymous with like homosexuality, right? And a lot of people just like rainbows, they're pretty. But it has become like something where if somebody's wearing a rainbow or they have rainbow nails or whatever, it's like instantly assumed that means you're gay or you're like very pro-gay. And it might have nothing to do with that at all, right? But it's an interesting stereotype that we have about like homosexuality. Did you have a Yeah.
And I noticed some of the kids just like have like rainbow, like
Yeah.
or rainbow long sleeve shirt. I'm like, are their parents trying to make them be something else? They're like 2. They're
Mhm.
1 and 2 years old. But honestly, I see it a lot now in
Yeah.
all the stores, they sell everything, just.
I mean, and a rainbow could just be a rainbow, or it
Yeah,
could
I
be
just
something
think
more.
They
Yeah.
didn't know,
Mhm.
babies.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because the second we see a rainbow on somebody,
Yeah.
it's that assumption of like, well, you painted your nails that way for a reason, right? Like, what do you? And there's a lot of this, right? And whether it's bisexuality or homosexuality, there are like different concerns that population like deals with, right? As a result of their orientation. Are there any other, we have like another minute or two, any other thoughts or comments, anything else here before we are done with this? My daughter my daughter Paisley, the one who said she wants to marry her best friend. She wore a rainbow shirt the other day and she's like, do you like my rainbow shirt? I'm like, you want to marry your best friend and now you're wearing rainbow shirts. I'm like, all right, Paisley, it's just, but she just loves rainbows, right? So sometimes that's all it is. I wanted to tell you too, I kind of felt guilty about something and I wanted to like fix it. I told you like weeks ago that my partner had a biopsy and then I never told you the results and I kind of felt like an asshole for not doing that. I'm so sorry. They came back good. They came back negative.
Yeah.
I know. I cried out of relief. It was just like a benign mess. But I've been thinking about it for weeks that I didn't tell you. I only found out like last week, so it wasn't that long ago. But I felt like I needed to fix that, right? Just as people. I mean, yeah. I know. Yeah, it's good news. Yeah.
There's something like the results were inconsistent.
Yeah. You have to come back and get like another one.
Yeah.
There was like. It was cysts, like it wasn't, like, it was totally okay, but there was like a bunch.
Yeah.
Just put it in it.
Sure.
So that you can tell, like, years ago. I had the same issue, like.
Yeah.
No. So she didn't know. It was my God, I thought like.
How scary.
Yeah.
And a lot of women have cysts and lumps in the breasts, such breasts are lumpy, right? But it can be quite scary when you don't know. And I was so grateful that it's my kids and I, we all like just fine, right? And everyone else is all great. Anyway, have a wonderful rest of your week. The homework assignment is coming up on Monday. It's due. I'll remind you on Mondays. But over this next week, be working on it, okay? We talked about it previously. It's coming up. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you on Monday. Bye. Take care.